You're listening to Transformation at Work, your one-stop guide to Salesforce success. And this is Salesforce Tech Talks, comprehensive deep dives into the art of solutioning and implementation for Salesforce. Our expert squad of developers, solution architects, and industry veterans are breaking open the black box and digging into the possibilities of solution design and architecture. The show is brought to you by Gerent, a summit-level Salesforce consulting and implementation partner and solutions provider, and I am Jeff Stormer, your host as always. In this episode, we're talking about Slack, specifically how to make the most of your team's Slack implementation. Now, if you're anything like the average Slack user, you're likely familiar with the platform as a communications tool. You use it to send messages back and forth, you have different channels for different projects, you're maybe hopping into huddles with your colleagues. It helps to keep the team virtually connected throughout the workday. And that's an incredibly valuable tool. But what if I told you that was just the tip of the iceberg? The reality is, when used to its fullest potential, Slack brings an incredible amount to the table. It really becomes an all-in-one collaboration and workspace that not only allows you to instantly communicate about projects, but work on, get approval for, and share those projects all within the Slack platform itself. All through an industry-leading set of integrations, automations, and the capability for out-of-the-box or custom-built Slack apps and workflows. There is incredible productivity-boosting power baked into Slack if you know how to unlock it, and that is exactly what we're talking about today. To understand more, we sat down with Krishna Patel, partner engineer at Slack, who has worked directly on the platform for over 3 years, to get a better understanding of the evolution of Slack as a solution over the last several years, and really what these sorts of third-party app integrations offer the platform and its users. Here's what Krish had to say.
In the past couple of years, Slack has really become a place where users come to interact with a lot of third-party software, right? So, we have apps for Google, for Microsoft, for Jira, really hundreds of other third-party applications. So Slack is really the place where people come to interact with those.
That expansion of Slack makes a lot of sense when you consider the realities of how people work and the unfortunate time costs that emerge when you spend your day switching between platforms and programs to accomplish your daily objectives. It's an action that might not seem particularly overwhelming, but as Krish breaks down here, it can add up.
The whole vision behind the automation journey in Slack is that we want to save users those times, the time to interact with those third-party software, right? Like you might be context switching a lot in your day-to-day. You might go to Google, you might go to Jira, 10, 20 times. And that's every time you go there, you may be losing 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes doing these like small little tasks that might just be like creating a ticket or adding a comment or resolving an issue.
2 minutes here, 4 minutes there. In a vacuum, that might not sound so bad. But as Krish points out, when you add all of that together, you could ultimately be losing an hour or two of working time a day just switching between apps, filling out small administrative tasks, doing that context switching and swivel chairing between responsibilities. And it's that swivel chair mentality that is precisely what Slack is looking to address through its automation capabilities. Here's Krish with more.
And so with Slack automation, what we're trying to do is save all that little bit of time that you're spending outside of the platform doing these little tasks. And so with Workflow Builder, with Slack automation, you could essentially do a lot of those things inside Slack and furthermore, even automate them, right? So the process of creating a ticket, you don't have to now go out of Slack to create tickets. You have the entire process defined inside of Slack. So you fill out a form, you enter the information, that information gets sent over to, let's say, Jira or a third-party service, creates a ticket there, automatically sends a message to maybe a Slack channel or a person, so the whole process is really, you don't have to think about it as much. You just come to Slack, you hit a button, fill out some things, and you're good to go.
But even the most tailor-made automation is really only useful if you're actively using it, and that means it needs to be readily available and easy to set up. And for that, we need to look to Slack's built-in template library and app gallery. For more about that, here's Krish.
We have a whole library of templates and automations that can help you get started. It's something called the templates gallery inside Slack. So this is essentially a place that allows you to discover use cases or automations if you don't know exactly where to start. So that's a real helpful place to go to if you don't know.
In the template library that Krish was talking about, there's also like survey responses.
That's Kishan Patel, application architect on Gerent's delivery team, who has worked closely with customers to tailor their Slack implementation and its automation capabilities to their particular industry needs.
So another out-of-the-box Slack workflow automation tool they give you is the idea of collecting surveys. So if you need to generate feedback from your organization, you could send that all directly in Slack. And yeah, there's a number of extensions that exist already. There's too many to name out the front.
Now, all of this talk about out-of-the-box integrations and automations is fantastic. It's really valuable, don't get me wrong. But a question really emerges when you start to look at particular industry use cases, and that is, of course, what happens when we have a solution for which there isn't an out-of-the-box option? Can Slack automation support an organization's proprietary software or industry-specific solutions? And for that, we turn to Slack's custom workflow builder. Here's Krish with a breakdown.
So Slack's workflow builder is meant to be a tool that really anybody can pick up. So whether you are a developer who goes nitty-gritty into the code, or you're somebody who just wants to click a couple buttons to get a workflow set up, both users are welcome here. You could do both. So using the templates gallery, you can get up and running with let's say the example Kish gave, right? Like the survey responses. We have a template for that. You could go into the template gallery, click on that workflow. And I think you got to click 3 more buttons after that to have that workflow started, right? And if ever you want to customize it more, we have a UI where you can literally just drag and drop other steps in there from our third-party connector. So let's say you want to collect your survey responses and send them to Google Sheets. That's just as easy as dragging and dropping the Google Sheets. Add this item to a row, So super easy for beginners to get started. And if you're more of the power user that wants to get super technical and wants to customize like the process a little bit more, we do have something called custom workflow steps, where you could programmatically write more logic into what goes on into like the data processing behind the scenes. If you want to make API calls on your own to like maybe an internal service or a service that's not public, you're able to do that. So really we offer like a lot of flexibility on that, and whether you're a beginner or more of a more nitty-gritty technical person.
Even if you want to go the custom route, like Slack, you can use Slack workflow automation to send webhooks. So you can go the custom way if you want to go. And I think Krish would agree with me in saying that Slack is one of the better collaboration tools that we both used in our organization. And the less you need to leave the tool, the more you are productive.
And here's Kish with a use case of what that kind of custom app integration looks like in play and what it can really offer organizations and employees in terms of their daily collaboration.
One of our most recent Slack implementations was the idea that employees at an organization, specifically at a warehouse, could use Slack to submit non-conformity reports, right? So like if there's something in the warehouse that is, it's not counted the way it should be counted, or the inventory is off, they can go straight on Slack and submit that Slack form, which would then create a case in Salesforce for whoever needs to track it and follow the life cycle of it. So that's a really interesting use case, because in doing so in Slack, we don't need to leave that productivity workspace. We don't need to go into Salesforce and create that ticket. Like I could be in Slack, we could be talking about something. For example, suppose a nonconformity comes up, I can open up my Slack workflow automation right in the same platform, submit that, and then have that connect to Salesforce in order to create a case, run a flow, send an email, create a notification. The choice is yours, right? And let me tell you, on the delivery side of things, that was very much appreciated, how simple and easy the tools were to use. And I might add that Slack documentation is straightforward, to the point. Some of the better software tool documentations I've read, for example, like connecting the Slack organization to a sandbox. The help document has all the steps in short, concise format. Everything is ready to go. So like KP said, the tool is easy to use. Beginners can get going, and advanced developers can also use it.
Now, we've talked a lot about productivity boosting apps and automations here, and obviously that is a hugely important part of the value proposition of Slack. However, that's only one way in which the full suite of Slack capabilities really centralizes the entire virtual work experience into a single platform. Those same integrations and automations can do a tremendous amount in building culture and deepening relationships, all of the little things that make work a little bit more bearable on a day-to-day basis. For more on that, let's throw it to Krish.
It's important to note when we were talking about the solutions gallery, it's not just like productivity automations that are in there. We have a couple of like more culture or fun ones, right? There's one where it's like a weekly reminder where like every Friday you could send a reminder for Slack to remind maybe a channel or a person to, send kudos or tag the people that you think deserves kudos this week. So there's a lot of like just culture building ones automations out there that are equally just as important. I think those are the ones that kind of, make your Friday a little bit sunnier or, maybe get your Monday off on a better note, We have one, for example, like every Monday we post on the channel where it's, hey, what did you do during the weekend? And then, there'll be like 5, 6, 7, 8 members of the team posting pictures. And, I think that's a great way to start off on Monday.
At Gerent, we're using Donut Pals, which is a application in Slack that connects you with a random person in your organization once every 30 days, and sets up a donut chat with them or a coffee or beverage chat with them. So every 30 days you get to meet somebody new in the organization. You get to learn something about each other, and then you get to post in your donut channel saying that, hey, Jeff and I met today, and I learned that Jeff really likes Plaid, and I met Krish, and Krish really likes Slack. So that's one way that you can use Slack to stay connected in a remote environment. What are you guys using over there, Krish?
And of course, as Krish lays out here, even framing it in that context, culture building plus productivity, isn't the whole picture of what the Slack suite brings to the table as a solution.
I think, Slack has tons of features. We have AI features, we have automation features, we have apps, integrations. Like, I think every person or every admin or Slack champion in an organization should at least try out each one of these features, Like maybe initially you might not be convinced of something, of using a certain integration, but it doesn't hurt to at least try it out. These are, at least if you have like a paid plan, integrations are free. Automations, you could build them on your own. So just go ahead, try it out. Just try it out for maybe like a week for one single project. And if it works for you, that's great. Keep on using it and you'll be more productive than ever. If it didn't work out, maybe switch something or use another integration. But it doesn't hurt to try it out first.
I will say this, Slack has the most approachable way to learn its tools. Be it with the workflow automation builder, be it with Canvas, be it even with the Slack AI features that are rolling out, be it with Slack List. The tools are made to make work fun. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
Whether you're an admin or a regular user, Slack apps and automations ultimately serve a pretty valuable purpose, taking all of your work processes and centralizing them onto one single platform, and empowering you with everything that you need for your daily projects, for chatting with your fellow employees, for staying connected to the company culture, all in one place. And in an increasingly virtual work environment, having that central location that feels like a real, honest workspace, instead of 14 disparate platforms that you're jumping between throughout the day. That, to me, feels more important than ever. That feels like transformation at work. This has been Transformation at Work. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much to Krish and Kish for your wonderful contributions throughout the episode. Transformation at Work is, as always, produced by Gerent in collaboration with Salesforce. I am Jeff Stormer, your host and producer. If you enjoyed the show, consider leaving us a 5-star review on iTunes or Spotify, or head to Gerent.com to sign up for email updates when we release new episodes. Until next time, thank you again for listening, and we hope to see you again soon.